What's up guys, Intellitech Studios here, and today we're going to be doing the full review on the Dyson Slim Ball Origin. Now, this particular machine I've had for about 2 years now, but I haven't used it that entire time, but I have used it roughly about a dozen times, so I feel like I have had enough experience with it to do a review on it. Of course, this machine is currently out of production. This DC40 based body style design of Dyson's, including the Multifloor 2 that you see off screen, is no longer in production, so you don't have any longer options of a lightweight mid-sized Dyson like this machine. But this review may still be helpful if you manage to find one of these old stock on eBay or something to that effect. While you can't buy these new, there's still, as the last time I checked, plenty of these floating around on eBay, and for pretty decent prices. Now, whenever you're looking at this compared to the Multifloor 2, yes, I'm sitting down, you can see my Reptar socks. So, the biggest thing comparing this machine to the Multifloor 2 is there are a few small differences, but for the most part they're the same machine. If this version of the Slim Ball Origin, as well as the Multifloor, have slightly different brush rolls, the main difference between this cleaner head and the cleaner head on the Slim Ball Animal and the Multifloor 2, which are the same as each other, is this cleaner head, the brush roll has slightly less dense bristles, and this one has a seal on the back of the cleaner head, whereas the Dyson Ball Multifloor 2 does not have these things. So it doesn't make much of a difference in terms of cleaning performance. The actual performance between the two is pretty similar, and there isn't that much of a difference on either carpets or hard floors, but there is a slight improvement on the Multifloor 2. So it's not really enough to where if you have a Slim Ball to upgrade to the Multifloor 2, maybe the Animal 3, but as far as the Multifloor 2, they're very similar. Most people would consider it the same machine. Now, the only other difference, well, there's a couple other minor differences besides the color. The Multifloor 2 has a slightly different filter. It is the same filter, they are interchangeable, but the material that comes on the filter on the Multifloor 2 is slightly different than on the Slim Ball. Most people would not notice that. The only reason I know is because, well, someone told me. So, to my eyes, they seem like the same filter, and both the filters, as well as the majority, if not all the parts, in fact, all the parts are interchangeable between these two machines. And the other big difference, besides the attachments being slightly different, is the Multifloor 2 has a 31-foot cord, whereas the Slim Ball only has a 25-foot cord. Now, apparently there is a version of the Slim Ball that has a 30-foot cord from what I've been told, but I have not found that version. This machine, the Slim Ball, comes in a few different colors. Mine is the red variant, which the red is not all that common of a color, but the purple and the white are going to be a lot more common, and I believe there's a yellow version as well, but that one's not as common. So most of the time when you see this machine, it's going to be either white or purple, and the only thing that's colored on it is the cyclone assembly. Now, all of that is mostly irrelevant to how you're actually going to use the machine, but that's a little bit of an introduction. So, as far as how it is to use, it's pretty lightweight. This machine weighs 15 pounds, and it does creak a little bit when you're moving it around, and when you pick it up, and when you're also maneuvering it, it does creak a little bit, whereas compared to the Ball Animal 3, that machine doesn't creak at all. So Dyson has made some improvements in that regard. Although, keep in mind, this was a refurbished machine. That was refurbished directly from Dyson, yes, but still a refurbished machine. So in my case, it also had a shorter 6-month warranty as opposed to the full 5-year warranty. But again, there are new versions of this machine that were available from places like Lowe's and Target where you had a full 5-year warranty. So, as far as the cleaning performance, it's excellent. There's really not much to say about that. All these newer Dysons with these newer cleaner heads do clean very well. The biggest issue with them is that there is no physical height adjustment. The way this is designed is it has the active base plate, which is supposed to essentially automatically adjust to certain floor types. So you can see a bit of an accordion design there that a lot of these older Dysons have, and it does a great job, but it still doesn't play nice with certain types of carpets. I was just talking to another YouTuber who has the Multi-Floor 2, who mentioned how on his soft carpet, the Multi-Floor 2 just really bogs down and it makes it very hard to push and also not clean as well. So your mileage may vary in terms of what carpets that this works on, although my experience with this, using it on my carpet in my house, both my thin pile carpet upstairs and on my stairs, and my high pile carpet that is in my living rooms and in my bedroom, as well as my bare floors, I've had zero issues using the Slim Ball. It has worked great on every surface, and in particular, whenever I used it on my dad's very thick plush 80s style carpet, this was actually the best machine that I have ever used on that carpet. It was very easy to push and easy to pull, but you could still feel it gripping the carpet, and also it cleaned very well. It filled the entire bin with sand and fine dust, and it got a lot of stuff up. So overall, it did extremely well at cleaning that specific type of carpeting. And for what it's worth, I did vacuum a very small section of my living room after cleaning this out, and it did pick up some stuff. So it may not be the best in the world, but it does pretty good as far as deep cleaning carpets. But again, the best way to really make sure that this is good for your carpets is to test it on your carpets, because it seems like that depending on what type of carpet you have will determine whether or not this machine works well on your carpets. And that's the same with all these older cleaner head design ball Dysons. That's something they fixed on the Animal 3 from what I can tell, although I can't really confirm that because these older cleaner heads worked fine on my carpet anyways, so I can't really demonstrate a scenario where they didn't work on one carpet but the Animal 3 did. But that is something that I've heard being reported from other people that have tested these machines. So that is something to note, and given the fact the Animal 3 has basically in some ways replaced this machine, that is good news. But again, as far as this, if you had an older Dyson, if you had something like a DC41 or a DC65, DC40, and you liked that machine and it worked well on your carpets, then if you liked that form factor and you don't want to upgrade and the cord length isn't a big deal to you and you find one of these for a good deal, then it certainly could be something worth looking into. So as far as a lot of the other things, it works the same way as many other Dysons. So again, this is based off the DC40 platform, so you've got the quick release where you just push it back, and that allows you to push it back. Again, this machine does creak a lot. Also, my machine, despite the fact that it hasn't really received that much usage, so obviously the filters are still okay, mine's been making a bit of a funny noise whenever I turn the machine on and off. I'm not sure what that is. It sounds like it'd be related to the filter, but again, the filter is on properly and it's not an old filter, so I'm not sure why that is. Obviously, I can't do anything about it now because my Dyson warranty on this is long expired. It's not even showing up on my account anymore for some reason, but it's not a big deal. It doesn't really bother me, so I'm not too fussed about it. As far as the attachments, one thing I've noticed is that you do have the older style combination tool, whereas the one you get on the Multi-Floor 2 is a lot longer and has a bit of a nicer crevice tool with a nicer brush with actual air holes. But this one still works just fine, and of course they are interchangeable. So this crevice tool and dusting brush I actually end up liking more, because while this dusting brush is about the same, and while the crevice tool doesn't have the bleed holes, unlike the newest version, it also doesn't choke the suction as much as the newest version. So this actually works very well. And even though combination tools are usually junk, this particular combination tool I've had no issues with. I've used it every day in my house on many different Dysons with this exact same tool, and it's been working fine. The crevice tool works fine, and the brush works fine. So what more can you get out of a combination tool? And now the stair tool, right here, is pretty much the same as all the new ones. The only difference is it has an extra strip of bristles on the top, and most of the versions don't have this. Mine just came with an older tool, but I'm not complaining. It doesn't seem to help or hurt. It doesn't seem to make much of a difference at all in terms of cleaning performance, although I do notice it is kind of just one more thing for the hair to get stuck to. So theoretically, if you're going back and forth, you could have it get stuck on each piece of velvet as you're pulling it back. But it does a good job of getting up hair. so I don't have many complaints there. And a lot of dust will collect on these little felt strips, but this is easy enough to wash. I haven't had any issues with the felt falling off on these newer tools, so that's fine. Now, as far as how it connects on the machine, you have the standard quick release wand that Dyson is known to, so you just flip up the wand cap and pull the wand out. And of course, the hose clicks onto the wand just like that, and you can attach the attachment directly on the end of the wand, just like that, or you can pop it off and attach it directly to the end of the hose by pushing that button, pulling the wand off, setting the wand aside somewhere where it's not going to fall over, and of course putting the tool right on the end of the hose. Now I do notice this tool actually locks in pretty well, whereas on my Dyson Ball Total Clean, for some reason the stair tool does not like to clip onto the hose. This one doesn't have that problem, so it seems to be just a weird random issue that affects some units. Also, my Total Clean also had a weird defect with this combo tool where the brush wouldn't stay locked in this position. It would just slide down as if it wasn't locked. So just to show you how to fix that real quick, if yours has this issue, you want to just grab this and just hold this button and just yank it off. And this little tab right here, you just want to bend this down. Basically just want to bend this like this, and that kind of reforms that plastic so it's not sticking out. Then you just press this button again and pop this back on. Of course, it's going to be a bit harder to put back on now. There we go. And then it will lock in just fine. So this particular tool didn't have that issue, but I have had that issue with other tools. So that is fine. So as far as that goes, there really isn't much else to say about this unless I was to repeat a lot of the information that's in a lot of my other Dyson reviews. So I'll just quickly run down all of that information real quick. So like I mentioned, the cleaning performance on both carpets and bare floors is pretty good. Not quite as good as the Animal 3, but it's very close. This does like to seal itself to some types of carpeting and floors, so again, your mileage may vary depending on your type of carpeting, but based on my experience, every type of carpeting that I've tried, this machine has not had a problem with. The bin design and cyclone setup is pretty good. I have noticed that for some reason this canister, even though it has slightly less space, the advantage to that is it's easier to fit down into a trash can, and this button is easier to press than on some of the full-size Animal variants after they've aged for a bit. So that's another thing. I did a video on how to empty this bin and clean the filters and all that, so I'll link that in the description as well to show you all that. But you've got a filter in here and a filter on the side of the ball. One thing I do like is this does have a pretty normal square gasket, unlike the curved gaskets on the Animal models, although I do wish this intake was larger and not so square. It's not the best for airflow. Now, of course, the intake in the motor is also a lot smaller as well, since this is the lighter weight machine. So if you have animals or you suck up a lot of large debris that is likely to get lodged in the machine, then something like the Dyson Ball Animal, Animal 2, Animal 3, that sort of platform that's slightly larger at 17 pounds instead of the 15 pounds of this machine could be a better option, although those will still get blocked up with stuff if you suck up a bunch of large debris that you're not supposed to. For example, whenever I used my Dyson Ball Animal 3, or more so my fiance, used it to clean out our air exchange, and a bunch of coins and needles and stuff got stuck in the intake for the bin. Now, perhaps, even though this one's lighter weight, it might have a better time with that because it's an actual molded entry point, but this little lip on the bottom of the Cyclone can sometimes get stuff stuck to it. So, again, your mileage may vary. So, the hose and the wand is the same as all the other Dysons, so same story as it always is. You can get up a traditional flight of stairs. Every single step except the last two are a little squirrely, but not the end of the world because you can just do those last two with the machine at the top of the stairs as long as you're careful. So again, same story. This will get up your stairs just fine. The hose is not shorter than the more full-size variants. It's the same hose, so the reach is identical in terms of the hose. Obviously the reach on the cord is much less because it's a shorter cord, but the reach on the hose is all there. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is that this machine, for some reason, when I compare it to the Multifloor 2 and as well as the Animal 2 and Animal 3, The motor on this, it sounds really quiet when you first get it, but when you compare it to other Dysons that have made improvements in terms of sound dampening, and this is even just in the US. In the UK, it's even more of a night and day difference. But in the US, you do notice a difference. This machine, when using it in my living room, it's a lot more shrill and high-pitched sounding, which makes it kind of unpleasant to listen to whenever you're vacuuming with it. Which is ironic because usually my living room is great at sound dampening, but I did just, have to get rid of both of my couches again, temporarily, but still. So the room is a lot more open now, and perhaps that means that there's less things for the sound and to dampen off of, so that could be a possibility. But again, still comparing it to the Animal 3 and this Multifloor 2, it is a lot louder and a lot more shrill, so you do get some sound advantages and I guess comfort advantages whenever you go with newer Dysons. So that right there is pretty much the final thing we're going to talk about. I am going to run this real quick just on this small area you see, and that's pretty much that. I'm not going to do a pickup test. I'm sorry, I know I just don't have the energy to. I don't know where my potato flakes are right now, and my chest hurts and I want to go to bed. So, not to be a complainer, which I'm usually not, but this machine isn't something you can buy for sale right now anyways, but just take my word for it. I've done other tests with other Dysons of similar, if not identical designs, and I will do that testing when I review the Multifloor 2 if I find out where my testing flakes are. So, the performance of this, like I mentioned, for both surface debris and embedded debris is still really good. Not the best, not as good as the Animal 3, but it's pretty close. The agitation is definitely better than newer Dysons, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it cleans better. It's very close. So it very well could be something that depends on your carpet and what adjustment you have the Animal 3 set on. But again, if you're looking to buy one of these at the $350 price point, I recommend just spending the extra $50 and get a Dyson Ball Animal 3. You'll have 10 feet longer of cable. You'll have a machine that's slightly heavier but has a much better cleaner head that resists hair tangles, that has a proper adjustment for certain floor types, has better attachments, better build quality, and just overall is a more modern, refined platform. So you do have other options, although I do like this more than the equivalent Sharks that I've reviewed, especially since some of those have had more reliability issues as time went on, whereas this Dyson is still working without a hitch. So that's to be said. So I'm going to bring this camera back a little bit, and we're just going to give this a super quick run on this carpet. One other thing I mentioned is the cord does like to get stuck around this pedal, so that can potentially be a problem. So I'm just going to run this really quick. Again, I'm not going to run it for too long, but yeah, we'll give it a quick demo. So there's that weird sound that I mentioned. I'm not sure where that's coming from. Again, it might be the filter. I'll diagnose it later, but I'm not too worried about it because it doesn't seem to affect its performance, and it's kind of funny. So, yeah, and again, for the $140 whatever dollars I paid for this for a still basically at the time brand new Dyson that at the time was still kind of current, I'm certainly not complaining, and 2 years later I would say it has been money well spent. And realistically, I probably won't get rid of this machine, even though I have better ball vacuums, as well as just better vacuums in general. Primarily because this is the first modern Dyson I ever bought for myself, so there's a bit of sentimental value to it. But yeah, those of you who have been subscribed since I first unboxed this video 2 years ago, drop a like on the video, and consider subscribing, considering we are so close to 10,000 subscribers. And it would absolutely make my day, my week, my month, my year, my life if you would consider subscribing and getting us closer to that 10,000 subscriber mark. So yeah, that is that. And this is Intellitech Studio signing out. I'll see you guys in the next video. And shout out to Gabe, by the way. And I hope you all have a good one. Peace.